Welcome to the Rubber Onion Animation Podcast. We're fueled by an active community here, so if you want to participate, Rubber Onion is one word, I'm everywhere, and the hashtag is Rubber Onion Podcast. Use those and we will see you. Everything else you can find on the website. I'm animator Stephen Brooks. I'm the Rubber Onion. My co-host is animator Rob Yulfo. This is an interview episode.
Hi guys, Jasmine here. I want to make a quick note about Blue Sky Studios before we start this podcast. You might be thinking, wait, Blue Sky? Did I hear they were closing? Well, unfortunately, that is very true. While I'm not gonna lie, this has been a very hard time for me and those working at the studio, and I also feel like it is a big loss for the animation community that Blue Sky was the only larger feature animation studio on the East Coast. I also want to let you know that I have never been more grateful and proud to be part of this community. During this time, I've seen the animation community come together, and it just brings so much joy that these are the type of people that I work with, and this is the reason why I'm in this community. Coworkers I haven't worked with for years have reached out and support. Strangers have reached out, even our own students at the Academy of Animated Art. And not only that, I've heard from so many studios all over the world, the amazing things they're doing and all the positions that are out there. And there are a lot. It's really inspiring. And I also am inspired by not only the type of work, but also what the future holds. There seems to be a lot more flexibility when it comes to things like remote work, for instance, which is really exciting. So even though it is sad that Blue Sky is closing, I just want to let you guys know that the animation industry itself seems like it is thriving, and I'm excited for the future. I hope you guys are too, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. See you in there.
I'm Don Bluth.
I'm Harry Partridge.
Hi, I'm Tom Moore, teenage superhero.
My name's Adam Phillips.
This is Robert Valley.
And I'm in no way doing a forced plug. No, sorry. I won't say that.
And you're listening to...
So, you know what? As soon as we started recording, the rain is like stopping. I hope that is a good omen because it's storming. And we're all in New York. This is a first, I think, for this podcast. I think so. It's the first to interview someone in New York with all three of us being in New York and none of us being in the same room.
During a storm.
During a storm, exactly. All right, so what we usually like to do to start out, because there are fluff questions and there are questions that if you go to interviews, they'll ask you a whole bunch of stuff. So we just want to get those out of the way up front. We ask you to introduce yourself and what we are here to talk about, and then maybe just answer one fluff question that people tend to ask you. Oh,
like I picked the fluff question?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, but it's no pressure on me.
Okay,
it's great.
I got a flip. I got something.
All right.
There you go.
You could, yes, yeah. while Rob is drinking water.
This is pretty amusing because I've done a bunch of podcasts, but this is very informal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Katatikarn. I am co-founder of Academy of Animated Art, and I am also a senior lighting artist at Blue Sky Studios, where I've been working for 10 years. Something interesting about me is that I actually majored in economics, which is what you should major in if you want to get into animation, let me tell you. And I always wanted to be in the arts, but I was always kind of encouraged not to go that route when I was younger, thus the economics degree. But once I graduated from college and started going to the investment banking interviews, I knew instantly that was not my path. And that's when I decided to pursue a career in the arts, and that's how I find myself in animation today.
Something fun about me, as long as we're doing fluff questions. I majored in chemistry. And then I wound up in animation. Not necessarily because I went to interviews and stuff, but most of it, the general story was around like National Science Foundation budget was slashed, not really getting a lot of jobs in, working 2 chem labs and things, jumping from school to school, whatever. And I was doing animation on the side, started getting noticed, started getting jobs, and then yada, yada, yada. freelance animation. Found out if you stay up for like 50 hours straight working and doing your own stuff, which pays nothing, that's probably your career. So what made you think that it was animation? And when did you make the switch? Like after, like how long after college, you know?
That's a great question. Well, to be honest, animation was not on my radar. That summer after I graduated from college, I decided to just start taking any digital art classes. I had not taken anything. I started taking just basic Photoshop classes, Illustrator, like as basic as you can get. And I built up a portfolio with that. And it was definitely more of a 2D portfolio. But my instructor was actually a 3D guy. And when he saw me picking up all the 2D stuff really quickly, he kind of pulled me aside. I was like, I think you'd be interested in this. I think at the time it was 3D Studio Max or something. He started showing me, this is a while ago, he started showing me the software, and my mind kind of blew in a little bit because I had never been exposed to that. I was like, wow.
Why did you start taking the classes in the first place?
Because I knew, well, this is when I decided I don't want to do finance, but I want to go into the arts somehow. Besides just traditional painting and whatnot, I never pursued any digital form of arts, but I love computers. So I thought the next move would be, let's take classes. Let's learn how to do this. And what I did was I learned the basic Photoshop and Illustrator, and I built a portfolio. And I still don't know how I did this, but I got a job as a junior package designer at Godiva Chocolatiers that fall. I know. I
also, there's a very dramatic lightning bolt that happened right behind you as you say Godiva Chocolatiers. I don't know what cosmic thing you wronged doing this job. But.
No. Well, it is Godiva. No, okay. So what happened was I got this job in package design, and while it was in, more of the creative fields, it still wasn't doing it for me. And I still remembered when my teacher at the time showed me that 3D software. And I was like, I think that's what I really want to pursue. It felt really challenging, and it also had this technical aspect that I really liked about it. I ended up applying for grad school, and I went to NYU, and I got my master's there in digital imaging and design. So I went for 2 years there. I worked at Godiva as a package designer at the same time. That was a fun 2 years doing that. Eventually, I first started doing medical animation, and then I started working in a lot of post houses in New York City, doing mostly commercial work. And I did that for about 5 years. Then I finally got into Blue Sky Studios. And I say finally just because there was a period of time where I was applying to Blue Sky. I actually almost moved to LA because I got a job offer at Rhythm and Hughes right after grad school. But it was one of those torn things, New York City versus LA. And I just couldn't do it at the time. So I stayed in New York City, which I don't regret.
One's still here.
I always wonder what my life would have been if I had taken that job in LA.
Oscar winning and out of a job, sadly.
Probably, yeah. Well, I do track some of my friends that did that job. It is interesting. And then I ended up at Blue Sky, where I am now, and I've been there for 10 years. I'm a senior lighting artist. I've worked on more movies than I can count. And while I was at Blue Sky, I started going on recruiting trips around my third year there, probably to schools for the lighting department. And I noticed that no one knew how to light, to be honest with you. And then what I realized as well is I didn't know how to light when I was in school, because it's something that it's a very specific part of animation, and people kind of don't really teach it as much as they do.
Did you pick it up at Blue Sky? Or, I mean, I'm sure you went through it in your master's, but...
Well, kind of. I mean, I always gravitated towards lighting. Someone told me something really interesting. If you watch a movie and you focus on the acting, or do you focus on the look? And if you focus on the acting, you're probably meant to be an animator. But if you focus on the look, then you're more kind of inclined to be a lighter or like a look development person. And I was definitely that person in school. Like, I would just go through the animation part in one time. I'd be like, that's good enough. But then I'd like spend ages on the look. So I always knew that I liked lighting, but I self-taught myself. And even in New York City, when I was just working on commercials, I thought I was this amazing lighter. I think my title was a lead lighter at some of these studios and doing commercial work. So when I was applying to Blue Sky, I was like, why are they not accepting me? I don't understand. And finally, I did get into Blue Sky as a temp lighter on Ice Age 3, I believe. I was talking to the head of lighting there, and he said, to be honest, your reel was just not that good. And this was me after 5 years of experience. I was like, what? Talk about an ego kill, right? It was just like, I thought I was this amazing lighter.
Also, that is like the worst portfolio review. I mean, I've done portfolio reviews. I don't think I've ever told anyone,
No.
listen, just gonna tell you, not that good.
I should preface this. He did not tell me that when he was doing my portfolio review. Like, I went in for the interview, I got the offer as a temp, and I did really well to the extent where they wanted to offer me a full-time job. And I was talking to the head of lighting at the time, and he said to me, he's like, honestly, I had no expectation you would be good because your reel was not. The only reason why we gave you the temp position was, one, it's a temp position, and you were local, so we didn't have to fly anyone in or like put them up in housing, and we just need to fill that position really quickly because they were in crunch time. And I was like,
I am sure that you are friends with this person now. I am sure that this person is really great. However,
Followed by now beat it, kid.
yeah, that is the worst series of things that someone can tell you.
I mean, as an artist, you have to have a thick skin, right? With all the critiques you're going to get on your work.
Not that thick.
I imagine that scene in the Christmas movie where he just Santa pushes the kid down a slide
With his foot,
With his
yeah.
foot.
It was basically like that. And I remember sitting there like, okay. And then he was just like, but you're really good. I was surprised. And I was like, well, okay, that's kind of a compliment after all those insults. And that's when I realized, when I was at Blue Sky and they focused so much on the art of lighting in ways that I was never taught. You know, the commercial houses never had time to do that amount of, you know, specific lighting because the turnarounds
Sure.
were so fast that I still remember when I was sitting there, I was like, holy crap, I never knew how to light before. That was when I finally learned the beauty of really good lighting. When I went on these recruiting trips and I started looking at all these student reels, a flashback of that came into my head, and I was like, my God, no one knows how to do this. And
they just told everyone, your portfolio's not good. We would only hire you if you're local.
Yeah, that's what I was telling all the students when I interviewed them. I'm like, listen.
I'm paying it forward.
I mean, it was just horrible to see all these students so hopeful. And that was me. I was like, that was me trying to get in. And still, all these years later, nothing has changed. Schools are still not teaching you how to really light. And that was when my co-founder is actually my coworker as well. And he was going on the recruiting trips at the same time, separately to other schools. And we had this discussion, and he felt the same way. And we kind of joked one time at lunch, we're like, why don't we just teach them? Because we know how to teach them. And that's how the Academy of Animated Art was born. It was to give students and professionals, anyone, because all our students come from all walks of life. We have some engineers that turn into lighters. A way to actually learn how to light, because no one was teaching it. Not even after you spend, $60,000 at grad school, you still come out without knowing how to light. So
it does seem to be a path that a lot of CG artists, but there are a lot of jobs in CG animation. A lot of the new ones that people go to, people that I've talked to, as far as having a degree in something and then switching over to something else when it comes to animation. It seems to be there are a decent amount of CG animators who have been doing something else. A lot of times some technical thing that is, well, like engineering or chemistry, although I do hand-drawn stuff, but having another discipline and then switching over to something else. Do you find that more in something so specific like lighting, where the draw might be something where someone is interested in, refractions and other words I might know?
I like that drop of refraction. I find that many lighters come from architectural backgrounds, actually. Many of my coworkers have masters in architecture, which I think is an interesting correlation. And it makes sense. It's, technical, but then also creative. And I actually personally wanted to be an architect too when I was younger, so I can really relate to all those people as well. So there is something. It's interesting. There is something about it.
And Hollywood has been showing that architects are rich and cool forever, and then they start working in architecture and they're like, oh god, this is boring. And then they want to do something cool like animation. We talk about that sometimes on how there's really no Hollywood, there's no movie that has an animator as like the main character. Rob disagrees, but every person that he brings up is not an animator. They're cartoonists or someone who has done something, some animated thing, but they're not an animator. That is different.
Yeah, it's
architects
like,
all the time.
I guess you're
it's
right.
Usually an architect because it's like it's showing creativity, but it's also working like then you get those big rooms with all the glass, and the big tables that nobody uses anymore.
I mean, it'd be boring to film an animator, right? They're just sitting at their computer.
This is not the point.
A dark room and like, ooh. What are they going to do next?
I mean, look at the extreme shots they get for hackers in movies. You could do the same for animators.
See? That's it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we could have Angelina Jolie be typing on her computer and having someone turn around going, I'm in. And somehow that's cool. And then they make an entire movie where it's just hackers that are laying in a bed doing nothing. But in their brains, they're kung fu fighting. The Matrix. Come on, it's one of the most popular movies. Rob didn't know where I was going with it. It's one of those popular movies ever. We could do that with animation. Just sitting there drawing, but meanwhile, it's two animators that are like battling for the soul of. Oh, I guess that's the plot of Cool World, isn't it?
Or The Cell.
Or The Cell. Sure. All right.
I think you guys have your next project. I think you should do this. Make it happen.
That's it.
No more
podcasts.
Just come up with the ideas and let other people sink their lives into our terrible ideas. I'm going to break the podcast fourth wall for a little bit and say that some of the topics that we were talking about that we were going to talk about on this episode was going to be how to successfully switch to a career in animation late in the game, and the challenges that new artists face in the industry, and where to get the right help. It sounds like both of those applied to you. I don't know about very late in the game. I mean, you graduated with a different degree, and then you went straight into a master's. But what are your thoughts on switching career after college if you were going down one path? For me, I switched when I was 23.
I say it's never too late. I mean, I know personally I technically switched probably around the same time, 22, 23, but we have students that have switched in their 30s. I was just talking to someone in their early 40s thinking about it. I think the best part about this industry is people don't care if you have a master's degree or even an undergrad degree in many cases. What they care about is, can you produce good work? So if you can produce a great reel to show someone, they're going to be wowed by it. They're not going to all of a sudden look at a great reel and say, this person doesn't have that master's degree, or this person's 35 opposed to like 20. I haven't seen that. We had 2 aeronautical engineers that were in their late 20s, almost in their 30s, that did the transition within a year because they were so motivated.
And if your reel's not great, getting a low and this isn't a joke back to it, but getting a low level position is a legitimate way in a studio to get in there and see what you might be missing in your portfolio or things that you might have missed in whatever your experience is. I mean, you had kind of like a parallel job that was going on. You were working in ostensibly a similar title to what you would jump over to, but what they were doing at Blue Sky was they were expecting a lot more than what you were doing. So your perception of what they wanted to see was different than their perception of what they were, what they needed. It was different than what they were looking for. Is there a way that someone could get that information in a, let's say, a less painful way than going through the process of just trial and error, just throwing out their reel and just hoping for the best?
Yeah, of course. This is why we created our school, Academy of Animated Art, because we know exactly what the studios are looking for, because we have been the representatives for these studios, and we've seen the mistakes that other people have made. Honestly, I made the mistakes that many people have made, probably all of them. So what we did when we designed our school is we designed it specifically for the busy person, the person that may be working a full-time job. It's fully flexible for anyone to learn wherever they are. So they also don't have, it's all online. So they don't have to be dependent on their location. And we've also made the cost like, I spent 60 grand on my grad school and more probably. We have our lighting bundle that's under 2K. So we give you basically all the tools you need and also all the assets as well to create that reel. Even if you don't have a reel, we have everything that you need to do that. The secret ingredient to all of this is mentorship. To have someone, especially when it comes to something like the arts, because you won't get it if you just watch a YouTube video and then you try to do it yourself, because there's no feedback. And as artists, I think you guys probably know, I know, the way we grow and continue to grow is through feedback from the director, from the supervisor. For us, we give our students one-to-one feedback on all their work within 24 hours. So they post their work, they get professional feedback just like you would in a studio. And that is what's so valuable. No matter where you're living, no matter where you are, you can post your work, and it doesn't even have to be work from the coursework. You can just be working on your own personal projects or anything you're working on. Post it to the group page, and you will get feedback from us either in text form, paintovers, or many times video feedback, which are really beneficial, and also a community of fellow lighting artists. So that is what's really invaluable and will push you to become a great artist fast, no matter where you're coming from. If you're an engineer, if you're an architect, that's how we get our students from start to finish, mostly within a year, to transition into getting that lighting job of their dreams. So that's what's so exciting about it. It's very hands-on, but then flexible to your schedule.
The classes, they aren't directly taught. There are videos that they're watching, and then there are people there to review, kind of like dailies, whatever they're submitting.
Yeah.
Right?
So yes. Also, all of the courses are online and they're on demand. Essentially, there are 10 courses included in the bundle, and we break it down for everything you need to know. The beginnings, the whys of lighting, to character light. There's a course specifically on character lighting, environment lighting, materials and shading, compositing. There's a specific course for that. And then lighting and animated film, which actually we give you a sequence. We give you a 5-shot sequence, and you actually light the whole thing. So you end with a fully animated short, essentially, to put on your reel. And we even have a class that's called Getting and Succeeding in the Industry, where I go over things that no one ever talks about, like negotiating. Like, how do you negotiate? What kind of things?
Negotiate your salary, or
Exactly.
negotiate a freelance project?
No, well, negotiate your salary.
Yeah.
But it could apply to freelance projects. We do a special interview with a Columbia professor who specializes in negotiation to like kind of give you tips on that. Because that's the one thing I will say as an economics major, the salary you go in at is gonna dictate for the rest of your kind of career at that studio. So you
can tell that we're all in New York because the game changes when you're in Uniontown.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
We gotta look out for ourselves here.
Yeah. But
yeah. Have you been keeping an eye on that? The animators, what animation paid me? Have you seen that hashtag that's on Twitter?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, that's been something that happened. Rob, what was it? It was like a few weeks ago, right? It's 3, or maybe it was more than that.
Well, we talked about it a few weeks ago, but it's been out for a couple of months, I think.
Couple months, yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of great to see because, especially in New York, anyway, I find that anyone who talks about money gets very, very, very nervous. Mm-hmm. I was a freelancer for a whole bunch of years because I had no experience. And who hires you if you have no experience? Just people on the internet. And then yada, yada, yada. I'm a director. People get very worried about sharing what they earn. Partly sometimes out of like they don't want to make anyone else feel bad, but also sometimes they also don't want to feel bad, or if they find out someone else is making more than they are, then it will make their experience worse.
I agree with that. I mean, there has been politics at, studios. It just happened recently. There was a new job opening for a position that someone essentially had. but the salary for this job was much more than this person was making, and it was because that person came in as a TA. Basically, that person came in as an intern. So this
Right.
goes into the economics of where whatever you come in as, even if you get that promotion, you're only going to be given, whatever amount above what you're making. And
It's very difficult to jump above a certain percent raise.
Exactly. Yeah. But the tip to do that is just get a counter offer from somewhere else, and then you can negotiate that way. But I will say, I watched this artist, who's a great artist, by the way, get really bitter really fast. And it affected her because before she was content, because she didn't realize what other people were making.
Right.
And then all of a sudden when she realized that, she felt cheated, and then she became really bitter. So I agree with what you said with that mentality that, people are cautious about their salaries. But there's Glassdoor.com.
Yeah, so how does it work in a feature film studio for like a series? If you break either at the end of a season or partway through a season, whenever there's a break, and then basically they like invite you back. But that's also the time that you can renegotiate. That's the time when you get a raise. But at a feature film studio, a studio that's making a feature film, when do you get raises if you're working on a film for years?
Well, it's all specific to a studio, because a lot of the studios now are by contract. So it's kind of similar to what you say by series. I would say the majority of studios now are by contract. It's very rare that there are full-time positions, which is unfortunate. Blue Sky is one of the kind of unicorns that still has the full-time positions. And it's mainly because they're the only studio on the East Coast, to be honest with you. They want to.
We're gonna get so many angry comments over that. But
maybe
I know what you mean. I get what you mean.
Maybe I shouldn't say that.
No. Of the top original animated film production in North America. Yes, that is true.
But I mean, I will say that, there are, from my experience, and I can't speak to others, we would have reviews every year. And that's where you kind of get your review and you get your raises or not raises. Some people have contracts, have 5-year contracts or whatnot, and that's when the time is to negotiate. So there is...
After 5 years or every year in the 5 years?
Yeah, it depends. Like, when I say 5 years, I'm just using that as an example. Like, some studios will say, like, here's a 2-year contract. Do you want 3? Like, at one point, I think I remember getting offered, like, do you want a 2-year contract or 4-year contract? So that's when you would have the leeway to negotiate for the next 4 years, the next 2 years, the next 1 year.
Yeah, a 2-year option I think is pretty normal. 3 years. 3 years if they really want you. 5 years. I mean, but that's series work. Like 5 years in maybe that makes sense in a film that it would be more likely 3 to 5.
Yeah. So no, I think 2 to 3 is probably more of the
2 to
norm.
3. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If there is a contract, sometimes there's not anymore. So it's all dependent. But that's when I would negotiate.
So you are in the lighting department. Your school is focusing on lighting, or you do other things as well?
We are focused purely on lighting right now, although we do have other things in the works that will eventually branch out to all aspects of animation. But we really wanted to hone in on lighting first because, 1, that's our specialty. 2, there's a need for it. There's nothing out there for it. And it was a great place for us to start.
Do you use Hollywood cinematographer examples in your teachings, or is it all animation based? Like, do you examples from live action?
Definitely. I mean, our big thing is reference, right? Everything should be worked off reference. So our first class that we have our students go through is very much theory based. It's almost kind of a film class in a way, teaching you about Rembrandt lighting, looking at old films and references that way. So we do definitely steer towards the fine arts of things, or looking at it in an aesthetic way. And technically, I will say that we let our students do their work on any software that they want. Because I think one of the biggest mistakes that students in animation make is they're so focused on, I need to learn the software. And they just go in and they're like, what does this button do? What does this button do? And you don't stop to actually learn why you're doing it. What actually makes a successful lighting image? What makes a successful animation? You know, you're just like, if I learn this software, I'm going to be great. And I think it's a huge mistake. And I made that mistake too. So that's why we say...
Is that what you think they picked out in your reel? That technically proficient in the program doesn't have fundamentals of something?
Yeah, just like fundamentals. Yeah, of course. Like, she can use Maya, whatever software it was. But
3D Max, you said.
Oh, well, no, that was what the person told me. But
Okay.
when I went to grad school, I never really learned it. I know Maya and I'm learning Houdini now. But anyway, that's such a sidetrack.
Houdini.
Houdini's pretty cool.
I know. I did one thing in Houdini to do like some like water sloshing stuff, and it practically blew up my computer. So it's just trying to process
This
everything.
is a prime example that, like, people use all different softwares. So softwares are like constantly changing, but what doesn't change is your eye. And especially if you're going for the big animation studios, they have proprietary software. So they're not even looking at what software you're using. They just want to know that you know how to create a beautiful, captivating image. So that's why at the school, that's our goal. Our goal is to teach you not how to push buttons or, HDR, like the special, all magical lighting button, but to show, can you show mood through your lighting? Can you tell the story through your lighting? Can you show that you can visually shape a character and show a vast atmosphere in a landscape? And those are the things that the studios are actually looking for, not what softwares you know. So, and this is something that people don't realize, right? When they're learning, they're just so focused on, I must learn all these technical tools associated with it. But what really is going to get you the job is these artistic, aesthetic aspects of going back to, can you tell the story? There's
really cool things that you can see in cinematography and live action. One of the reasons I brought it up is because I was just watching. This may be the most obnoxious film school thing that I have seen. I mean, I liked it, and I like Steven Soderbergh. Sometimes he's a lot, but he does this thing every once in a while where he does. He took the original Psycho and then the remake, the shot-for-shot remake, and he intercut it. I don't know. He just did it for fun. But recently he took Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, put it black and white, and then took out all the score, all the sound, all the dialogue, and just put, I don't know, his own score. It was like mostly Trent Reznor, which was just really weird to see. The cinematographer, Douglas, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Slocum? Something or other.
Sounds about right.
Apparently, that's something that he did a lot. Is he he worked a lot in black and white, and so he filmed a lot for contrast. Even though there was color films, if you turn it black and white, it all works very interestingly black and white. I was just curious if you had seen it because it was very cool. That's my question.
I have not seen it, but now
should.
I'm going to have to see it. I'm sold.
I was just thinking about lighting and cinematographers, and I wanted to drop that because it was obnoxious, and I watched it. I watched the whole thing.
It's kind of like that movie we saw that we read.
Squirm.
Black and white. So much more better. We had no interest in it, and once we turned it black and white, it was incredible.
It's just light and shadow. There is something about making something moody that way. But there is actually a series thing that was on. I don't know if you've seen this. You might be interested in this one. It is a YouTube video called Lighting is Savage from this guy called Trago. It's a funny video, but he shows a lot of examples about lighting in live action, and it is enjoyable. There are my 2 recommendations for you.
And I have
You're
not
welcome.
seen either of them, so I will go and
yes.
watch them.
I mean, now's the time in quarantine. Mm-hmm. When you said you were lighting at Blue Sky, I remembered back when I had the Ice Age DVD. There was the short Bunny was on it, and there's a commentary track on there. Chris has given his little spiel about everything that was going on. He talked about the lighting and how that was the whole point of Bunny, which was like before 2000, right? It was like 1990 something. That it was this big deal for Blue Sky because they wanted to prove that they could do this new lighting with radiosity. Mm-hmm. I don't really know if that's different than ray tracing. It seems like Blue Sky has almost like a history with lighting. Like that's the thing that started the studio.
Yeah.
So it seems right that they would take it super seriously.
Yes, definitely. I mean, they're talking about studio. It's called Studio, which was the proprietary renderer at Blue Sky. It's soon not going to be around because it's going to be replaced, but it is amazing. It was completely built at Blue Sky from scratch. It was the first. I'm going to get this wrong now. So people are going to get in because it gets very technical. But yeah, it was like the first ray tracer, by far the most advanced renderer of its time when Bunny was being created. And it did highlight the lighting, and it was all done in this proprietary
See, it happened
software.
Once, and now it's just going to happen forever. So now it's going to be a game. We're going to try to make you say proprietary throughout the interview.
Okay, now I feel like you're my sister asking me to say.
That's my job. I'm everyone's sister. I pick on Rob, but Rob's he's still here.
Oh yeah, I stumble on my words almost like right now.
It's almost a drinking game on this show.
Okay, make it sound really good and impressive.
It's what I do.
It's called Studio, which was the proprietary software, by far the most advanced renderer of its time when Bunny was being created. It did highlight the lighting, and it was all done in this proprietary software.
Perfect. Well, so right now, obviously being remote, I mean, everyone's remote. Mm-hmm. Even in the same city, as we are proving right now. I mean, we're all within like 30 minutes of one another. Now's the time to learn stuff online. But also, it brings up the question about work. Like, you learn stuff, you get to a place, great, you can get the job. What if you're not in New York, L.A., let's throw Georgia in there because they got a ton of stuff. Or Vancouver. I'm just doing all North America stuff. Toronto, I guess there's a lot. But if you live in, like, I'm going to say Des Moines, and there's probably, like, some awesome studio in Des Moines that I'm not sure of. But if you want to be a CG lighting artist, is that an option? Can you do that remotely? Or is that a thing that is really only in studio? Because hand-drawn animation, freelance animation, I could do that remotely.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question, and we get it all the time. I mean, I know for smaller projects, for sure, that it's been a thing where there has been online remote work. I have a friend that I used to work with in the city. He moved to the middle of nowhere. He's an animator, actually.
Des Moines.
Yeah, he's in Des Moines,
yeah,
probably.
Okay.
And he does remote work, and he's really busy. And I talked to him about lighting because I was like, oh, there's no way you could do that as a lighter. And he's like, no, I have friends. I have a good friend in South Africa that does it. So there's definitely an industry for that. But I will say the one thing that's happening with this pandemic that we're in and that we're all remote, it has forced all the studios to modernize quickly. So
Yeah,
all the studios right
great.
now are full remote. All the big studios, Blue Sky, Pixar, DreamWorks, Disney, we're all fully remote now. So what does that mean for the future? I think it means that it opens up a lot of doors that probably...
Do you think they're going to hang on to that? I mean, they did the infrastructure, but do you think they're going to hang on to...
Yeah, I mean, I can't
keep it at
say...
least a little bit of the workforce remote?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say for sure, but I know a lot of people that are very happy about working remote right now. And I would be surprised if we went full-time back into the studio. Not only is it beneficial for the artists that, some of them probably want to do remote, but I mean, for cost of the studio too, I would imagine as well. And it opens up the talent. I mean, I can't say for sure, but what this pandemic has done is, one, proven that this animation industry can still go. during the pandemic because we've all been working full steam ahead at home. Two, it's forced us to all modernize. So now we're all working from home because we used to say, honestly, oh, why can't we work remotely? And there was all these obstacles in the way. They're like, no, you can't do that because of that. But then we were kind of forced to, and it's like, oh, it actually works. So now that there's a proven model that works, I don't know, we'll see what the future holds. But I think no matter what, the remote in some aspects is going to be there. And it was already there. It just probably wasn't there for the bigger studios. But now it is. So it's going to be interesting. I'm very interested to see what happens in the next year or two.
Yeah, it's funny because I literally just saw something, I think, this morning. I had to look up which studio it was. It was a CEO from Mercury that was saying that larger studios cannot stay remote. And I didn't read it all the way through because, it's work day today. And I had to work instead of read about other people working. They said they're at 75% capacity right now. And I think this is something that Rob and I have been talking about is there. I mean, obviously there are things that are really beneficial about being on site, especially having to train like a brand new workforce. It's really, really difficult for me to get everyone on the same page remotely. Mm-hmm. So like, I could see new hires being in the studio, people who have to actually be in front, like in the edit, who needs high speed broadband, whatever, in the studio. I can see that being something. But then almost like once you get to a certain point and you're just doing day in, day out kind of grinding animation work or, the grunt work, as it were, that could probably be moved off-site. That could probably be from home. So maybe studios will do kind of a 50-50.
Yeah. I think, there's definitely talking about a hybrid model, right?
Yeah.
Where, either, you have the choice. Because I where I have coworkers that love this remote work, I have other coworkers I can't wait to get back into the studio. So, I mean, there's talk of like 3 days in the studio, 2 days at home. I mean, there's so many models that you can play with. The one thing I will caveat that I didn't realize, I was talking to someone in California, speaking of unions, is that to work, even when you're working for a union shop in California, you still have to live in California, even if you're remote.
Right.
So that is something to caveat.
Rob, I'm sorry. I can't get over your lanyard that is just very bright and rainbowy.
Yeah, this was a gift because my headphones from last time weren't working, so they picked these up for me. These sweet rainbow headphones.
Okay.
I would say, yeah, when out of school, I didn't know like exactly, like I always wanted to be an animator, but I didn't have like really a direction to go to, and everything I kind of learned was self-taught. And as fun as it is, kind of like, learning things organically and stuff, this is like, I'm hearing you talk about these classes, and I'm just like, man, if I had that option to just kind of have something like this and have that outlet, it would have been amazing, especially since you talk about like how to handle finances and stuff like that. I think it's just such a great outlet for people to kind of learn from, people who are experienced. And, there's so many, Steve, we were talking about how we go to, you would have to go to like certain forums and kind of look for an answer somewhere. And like months later, you go back and see somebody still asking the same question. Like, did anyone ever get to that guy?
Whenever there's like a technical question, it's like, hey, I'm running into this thing, and you search online. I'm sure everyone has this experience. You search online, and then you find a post that someone has made in a forum. You're like, yes, this guy has the exact same problem I do, and you click on it, and then there's no responses. So like,
yes.
So having a forum it's super beneficial to have people who are working through. That's also one of the things that is nice about, and I think I get why people like to work in programs, or why schools also, if you're teaching in a particular program, it's very easy for you to go, all right, click this button. Just don't worry about it just yet. We'll teach that later on, but just click this. That'll fix your problem at the moment. I get it if you have like a course load. In your online course, can they take them out of order?
Yes, they don't have to go in any order, and each course is a standalone. Each course is a standalone course, actually. So you can just take character lighting. It's all focused on character lighting. It doesn't have anything pre-rec from any of the other ones. So you can go in whatever order you want to. If you're really interested in compositing, go straight to compositing. So that is why it's super flexible with your time. Even though it might seem daunting, there's like 10 courses, you can just take one that you want to focus on if that's what your focus is. And I agree with what you guys were saying with the forum and the community. That's huge. Basically, when we designed this program, it's exactly what we always wished we had that we didn't have. We're like, oh, wouldn't it be great if I still remember when we talked about it, like, wouldn't it be great if we had professional feedback from someone on a constant, and it was like, yes, let's do that. Or the community. And I see it all the time. And it's great to see when someone has a technical question with whatever they're doing, they post it to the student community, and we don't even have to answer back half the time. The students are all in there giving solutions. Oh, I ran into that. And it's just having that sense of community and support from professionals and your co-learners that is amazing.
What's like the most common mistakes that you see posted?
You mean like the best, like how to light, or a technical issue?
Sure. I mean, just in general, when people are lighting,
yeah,
the thing that you find yourself going,
Yeah, I
what's
mean,
that?
The three things that people should focus on and often don't focus on when they're lighting is one, visual shaping. I know that seems obvious as a lighter, but they're not focused. Like even in the darks, there needs to be shaping in the darks. It's the subtlety in lighting that's really important, and that's what people are going to look for when they're looking at your reel. So you want to make sure everything has visual shaping. Like it's a black and white is a great example, right? When you look at something in black and white, there should be a grad of color, not just like flat white or flat black. So that's the first thing. The other thing that people want to really do is show that they can portray different times of day, different moods through lighting by itself. So a great way of doing this and an easy way of doing this would be to take one asset, the same scene, and light it 3 different ways in 3 different moods. And anyone could do that, right? You don't need these elaborate sets. It could be a very simple set, but we even have an exercise where we just have a series of geometric shapes, spheres and pyramids and whatnot, and that's what they use to light. And then we can show that you can actually take such a basic scene and portray mood and time of day. And then the biggest thing I think people don't realize in their lighting is that they're telling the story, even though they're not technically, people always think animation, the animators are the only ones telling a story, but it's a collaboration. It's a collaboration between the animation and the lighting and everything in between to tell that story. So that's the responsibility of the lighter. And I feel like students are mostly focusing on what's the latest tools. Like what's that button that I need to push, that magic button that's going to make it photoreal or whatever, when they really need to be focusing on going back to basics. How do I tell the story? How do I tell the mood? Because your job is to draw the viewer's eye, right? Because as a lighter, you are actually putting light on a character or whatever. So where you choose to design your lighting is where the viewer is going to see. So that's a big thing too, directing the viewer's eye and the importance of that. So those are the things that really make great lighting. And if you can portray that in your reel, then you're going to do really well.
That's great tips. The special magic button she's talking about, by the way, is refresh. Refresh button. There was one question that I had, which I don't often ask to people who come on, because we usually talk about like general stuff, or anyone who is talking about their career, I tend to want to ask about like one thing that they did that they're just super proud of. You work in lighting. What is just one thing that you did? Just like one perfect shot that you're like, I love that I did that.
That's interesting. It's so funny. I feel like we're our own like harshest critics. So I'm just like, none of my stuff's good enough. Like none of my things like made me feel that way.
All right.
But wait, no.
What is one thing that guy told you that you had a terrible portfolio and that they only hired you because you're a logo? What is one thing that would have impressed him?
No, I know. I got a shot. I got an
Great.
answer to the first question.
Great.
There was a shot in Epic. I don't know if you saw that movie.
Yeah.
But in Epic, there was this kind of really vast, big shot where the main character, she was running through the forest, up the trees, up this branch, and it was like super busy, lots of stuff going on. And I remember my lead, even when he gave me that shot, he's like, "Oh, this one's gonna take you a while," just because there was so much going on. It was a moving camera. The character was moving like so quickly across screen, and I did one go of it, and not that it was approved in one go, because that never happens, but I still remember he was like, "Oh wow, that's looking really good," and he was impressed. And I did the gobo, I had the light duck going and everything like that, and then after a few iterations with my lead, we showed it to the director, and he loved it. He had no comments at all, and it was a great shot. And it was one of those things where it started as a challenge, because my lead was basically like, "Oh, this one's going to take you, for like months to get this one right." And
yeah, and then
just,
to knock it out of the park like that.
Exactly. And to where the director, my lead was like, "Oh," the director said it was like one of his favorite shots. So that would be the shot.
That's great. What number film was that? I mean, you said it was more films that you could count, but try.
Epic was. This is where my memory comes into play, and my memory is like really fuzzy. So let's say Ice Age. Oh no! So I think it was Ice Age 3, then Rio, and then Ice Age 4, and then Epic. Maybe that was fourth.
Fourth.
The fourth film that I worked on, and then there's plenty after that. There's Rio.
More than you can count.
Peanuts and Ferdinand and Spies in Disguise and
Peanuts must have been some interesting challenges.
Yes, because it's really hard to get good shaping on Charlie Brown, which is essentially a sphere.
Yeah.
And then also Snoopy was a challenge too, because he's white. That white fur is like a very fine line between looking dirty and overlit to like that exact right shaping.
Now, I know it's not Blue Sky. I'm just saying this because it popped into my head. I was watching the Clouding the Mid-Chance of Meatballs special features a while ago, and they were just showing some of the frames that they had to do to get these like crazy smears and things. And there was just a shot where he had to run out of the room really fast, and then they showed exactly how long his arms were in order to like make his arms stay there as he's running out. And it kind of made me think about, in some of the stylized stuff, bringing up Peanuts, does that affect the shadows that are being cast? Because if it only works from one angle, but your light is casting a shadow from a different angle, like, does that break the illusion? Do you have to fix the shadow in some way?
Yeah, I mean, that's the joys of CG lighting versus, real theater lighting, because we have the ability to light link, right? To kind of really cheat it. And a lot of times you'd be surprised at some of these light rigs, like 100 lights in there, all like specially light linked to this character only has this set of lights. Or you have a shadow turned on, and that light, we're going to do another pass and have compositing is a huge thing too, right? So you can composite a different shadow from that one. So there is a lot of trickery, especially with shots like that, probably.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
All that is nonsense. And you can learn it
at the Academy of Animated Art.
There you go.
That sounded so bad. Okay.
I thought it was pretty good.
I know.
Real nice.
Well, I should say it better. See, this is where Mike needs to be in there, because I just hate this. He's so good. You should get him back on to do his all his pitchy stuff, and then he can put it in there.
He could record it on his phone and just send me MP3s, and I'll randomly intersperse it throughout the episode. I'll just have him come in, and it'll sound completely different. It'll just give his plug every once in a while.
That'd be so
we won't ever ask him a question or whatever, reference anything. It's just like he just jumps in from the ether.
But yeah,
That'd be fun.
I mean, maybe I should say it better. It's late. There's a free masterclass that they can take as well to kind of, we go through the 3 mistakes that you might be going through. We go through what to put on your demo reel. We also go through the 3 steps that our program takes you to getting your dream job.
What do you like more, teaching or lighting?
Ooh, that's a good question. Personally, I love creating. And to me, they're actually very similar, because lighting is creating more like in the physical artistic sense, but teaching is creating in a different way, which I never thought about before until I started doing it. So yeah, you're actually creating course content, which is a form of creation. But I would actually, now that I talk through it, I don't want to say teaching so much as mentoring, because especially after working in the industry for so long, it's really fulfilling to watch someone get their dream job and you're the person to help them. I feel like after working in any job, you just get tired of what you're doing, and you remember why you're doing it. By teaching, I feel like I'm giving back. All these students that we're teaching, these are things that they couldn't learn anywhere else because we had to learn it on the job. It took me, how many years? 5 years to get to Blue Sky, then a couple more years to learn it. It's impossible to learn these things unless you're on the job. To provide these students with a way to learn and to succeed. And then it doesn't get old getting the messages from students that they got their job, they got their first job, and they're so excited. And even to this day, like Mike and I will text each other like, oh, this is why we do it. Because it's exhausting. We both work full time, at Blue Sky, but we also run the academy full time, essentially, in the evenings and in our spare time. And we do it because it's kind of like a passion project and it fulfills us and we see the results.
It's almost like stopping you from becoming jaded.
It is. That's why I almost said jaded. I mean, I feel like we all get jaded.
You work in an industry long enough, you start working and you see enough of like, you really try to do this thing. The worst is when you spend so long trying something and doing something and then you just come in one day, they're like, oh yeah, that was cut. Like,
Exactly.
I spent so long on that and then it was just gone and never to be seen from again. Maybe if it makes its way in a special feature somewhere, which won't happen. Yeah, it's just a little bit like worn down.
Yeah.
And I did find that, whenever I taught or whenever I do any sort of tutorials or mentoring or it recharges your batteries a little bit. Makes you feel like, oh yeah, okay, I get it.
It reminds
things are good, I guess.
It reminds you of why you got into the industry to begin with, right?
Yeah.
At least for me, it's like, oh, that is interesting. Oh yeah, okay.
I find that when I go to film festivals too. If I go to a film festival and I see some people doing some cool stuff, I'm like, oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Personal projects.
For me to get unjaded, I would start doing like something completely unrelated to CG. I don't know if you guys went through the like, I need to build something with my hands phase because we're like so much on the computer that.
Yeah. Rob does stop motion and mixed media stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a phase where I took woodworking classes. I like made stools and like I like went back to I was like taking glass blowing in Brooklyn actually. And I was just like, I just want to create but that actually helped me at work, I felt like, because it kind of got me excited again and creating in different ways. Oh, do you have glass blowing?
I did these. I did these little things. I also did kind of a whiskey glass type of thing. And I was a carpenter in Alaska.
Oh, nice.
So I feel like you're just copying me, really.
Yes.
What's happening? You came on and you're just like, I majored in something else. I took woodworking, glass blowing, and I'm in the industry. I taught. I really feel like it's unfair. You're kind of taking my shine a little bit.
have been to Alaska too. I was not a carpenter in Alaska, but I can go back and do that.
One up. Is there anything else you want to cover? Oh, you wrote a book?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I wrote a book.
Oh, okay.
No, did you mention that you wrote a book? I don't remember.
What?
No, I
always forget that in the book.
Yeah.
No, I did not mention, but yeah. So Mike and I also co-wrote a book called Lighting for Animation that was published. Was it published before we started the class? The school? I forget now, but...
Well, it looks like the publisher was Focal Press, which is the publisher of my book.
Which they probably contacted me before you. So.
Well, yours was actually published in Focal Press. Mine was published as CRC Press because Focal Press dissolved.
Oh, that's right.
The year that I was writing it. So
wait, maybe you had the same editor.
They also changed I had three. I had three editors.
Oh, you did,
Yeah, and then my own personal tech editor. But they changed Flash to animate, and that's what I was writing. I was writing traditional Flash. Is what the name of the book was, and then they changed it to animate as I'm writing it.
I remember that text you sent me. Can you believe this?
I was so upset. It took me months to go back and like redo everything.
I mean, at least the book wasn't published. It could have been way worse. It could have been like just published and then it changed, right?
Yeah, it was close. It was like toward the end of the year, and I was going to be done at the end of the year. It was like, oh, okay. I'm really glad I wasn't done.
Just do the find replace button. Done. Find replace.
So we do talk about CG. We don't talk about it with any authority. We talk about it in terms of we know a lot of CG animators, so I get it. I get some of their experiences at studios and their experiences in visual effects and things like that. It's all very hearsay, but we don't. We've had a couple CG animators on the show, but we don't really talk about it all that much. And definitely, I don't believe we've ever talked about lighting. I don't believe we've ever talked about lighting for animation in CG. We may have discussed it at one point with someone in passing. So this was interesting. If you have any other lighting tidbits that you want to drop, that would be fun. But
lighting tidbits. My biggest tip, just make it look good.
Make it look good. You heard it.
Make it look good. No one cares how you got there. Just make it look good.
That's true.
That is my.
We live in the city.
I know as artists, it could be very easy to kind of, one, take your work really personally, but two, also think like, oh, I know it already. But really, you don't. And to get another person's eye on it, another perspective, especially a mentor type, is the way that your art's going to grow, you're going to learn. And I still say I learn every day in rounds and dailies. Like, there's so many times in rounds that I get the comment from the supervisor, the director, and I'm like, oh, they're so right. Because we're constantly learning. So never be too proud to take advice from a mentor, and definitely act on it, because that's the only way we'll grow.
Well, Jasmine, this was fun, and we made it the whole episode with the power on. So I feel like your pre-episode jinx did not affect me.
I tried.
I know you did. It's too powerful, my magic. Thanks for coming on. It was fun. I'll put a link in there, but if you have social media stuff that you want to plug.
You can find us on Instagram at Academy of Animated Art. And as well as you should join our Facebook group. We have a free Facebook group. I'll give you the link. The Facebook lighting community group, where artists will post their work. We'll do weekly critiques every now and then. And we also have a monthly lighting challenge that we do every month with a new asset. And it's a friendly competition where people will light a scene that we give them. And the winner gets $100 Amazon card. So
that is more than our battles. You're like, we host a monthly animation battle, and I was like, oh, we do that too. We don't give out $100.
There you go. I won.